Hello YouTube, how you all doing? Brian Redgrave here, and today we're gonna review Resident Evil 3, the remake. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody, I am doing a giveaway when I hit 100 subscribers, so please subscribe, share with your friends. So let's get started. Resident Evil 3 is obviously a remake of the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And there are quite a few changes, some good, some bad. The game's been getting a lot of hate from a lot of people, and I'm going to try to address everything. The hardcore fans, the maybe not hardcore fans but still fans, and the ones that know nothing. So I'm gonna try and hit every point and everybody in this review. So I beat the game 9 times. Just so you're aware, I know what I'm talking about. Obviously, the biggest change, which is obvious from any remake made from the ground up, is the graphics. The graphics look amazing. The game looks beautiful, sounds amazing. Everything of the way it looks, the world, the detail, the game looks fantastic. Especially when you consider the original at this point, the difference in power behind the consoles. So the game looks fantastic. It does not let you down. It's just another great looking game after the remake of 2 and games like Devil May Cry 5, Resident Evil 7, Monster Hunter, all these games have all looked fantastic without a doubt. And this, in that regard, is another hit in that. The game looks amazing when you play, the way you feel, everything looks so realistic, the character movements, the animations. So from this point in regard, the game is a complete success. Complete success, no doubt about that. But let's get into one of the game's biggest criticisms, which is the Nemesis itself. Obviously, I covered graphics already. The Nemesis looks fantastic. He looks grotesque. He looks scary. And if this guy was really following you in real life, you'd be scared for your life. But one of the criticisms is how he is used here. I think we were all a little, expecting him to be more like Mr. X. Now, Mr. X in the remake of 2 was really Nemesis like how Nemesis was in the original part 3, but that's not the case here. The Nemesis stalks you through Raccoon City in the opening hour of the game, and after chasing you, after playing it on easy and standard, he really wasn't that intimidating. He barely ever touched me, if ever. It was just he let me. I was like, oh, well, this is a letdown because Mr. X. I literally had to run away for my life, and I don't feel like the Nemesis is provoking that in me. Now, when you play hardcore Nightmare, when you unlock hardcore, when you beat hardcore, and Inferno, it is a completely different game. He'll run after you, he'll jump after you, he'll just do everything he doesn't do in easy and standard. So, if you want to experience the Nemesis right, I would say start in hardcore. Now that's up to you. Like I said, I started standard. I actually went down to assisted, then went to hardcore and Nightmare and Inferno. So if you want to experience them right off the bat more right, hardcore would be the way to go for the Nemesis experience. Obviously, then Nightmare and Inferno, where he's a true pain in the ass. But that's the opening hour of Resident Evil 3. Because the Nemesis is then changed to more of scripted events. And this is where people have really felt disappointed. And I felt that in the beginning of when I first played it. But the more I played it, the more I actually changed my mind on that regard. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if Nemesis were stalking you the whole time, he would literally feel just like Mr. X. Maybe a little bit more improved if you could add to him a little bit more. But I feel like at first I felt devastated and insulted myself as to, man, the Nemesis, I don't feel like he's actually stalking me. When he does show up, it's in this cutscene, to which then you know that, well, you gotta deal with the Nemesis. Unlike before, in the original, he will always show up, which is what Mr. X does. Now, I don't mind the scripted events the more I played, because I realized this gives Resident Evil 2, the remake, its own experience. And if you play part 2 and part 3, you get two different experiences of just more of the same. And I get it. Mr. X was fantastic. I love the remake of RE2. And at first, I wanted the Nemesis to be like Mr. X or even worse. But I'm okay with it. Because it gives both both games different experiences as to what you're playing, not more of the same. I get it. At first, I was devastated, but the more I played, I was like, it's actually cool. It's actually fine, especially because the cutscenes when he does show up tend to be awesome cutscenes. Whether it's him with the flamethrower showing up or him in his new form, because they changed his second and final form to be different. I think both changes to his forms are actually better looking than the original. So I have no problem with that change either. So the idea that the first hour is like Resident Evil 2 is accelerating and all, but then and not just that, when he becomes scripted, we are treated to actually very good boss battles in my personal opinion. Whether you're fighting him when he's holding the flamethrower, you're fighting him in his new second form, or you fight him again in his second form later on and the final boss. I think they're all well executed and even sometimes better than the original counterparts to some of this, especially the flamethrower. He didn't have a flamethrower in the original, and the fact that he got a flamethrower, that whole segment, yes, it is scripted, but it is well done and well executed. The cutscenes look amazing, and from that perspective, he still looks threatening, feels threatening, and it adds to the replay value of it. Because yes, Mr. X was awesome, but if you want to just replay the game and replay the game for the sake of replaying the game, maybe you don't want this guy like, oh my god, I gotta deal with this guy again. It adds to the time of change, which is exactly how I was. At first, I was frustrated. I'm like, man, he's not like Mr. X. He should be worse than Mr. X. And one thing I don't like that they did, though, is even when he's chasing you, Mr. X would just go in there, will open the door, and go in after you, unless it was a save room. The Nemesis doesn't really do that here. He only went into the donut shop when I was running around. If I would go in, he would just wait for me outside or leave, and when I go outside, he would just jump back into the area. I didn't like that. I like when Mr. X opened doors. So that's why I'm okay with that change to the Nemesis itself. I get it. I get it. It was a controversial change for sure, but one that it completely won me over the more I played the game. And that's another criticism the game is getting, which I'm going to talk about right now. It's the game's length. A lot of people saying, "Oh, the game's too short to pay $60 for it," and I get it. That would be a fair criticism, which is why I'm about to address it right now with all of you. The game averages between 4 to 6 hours, and that is extremely short for a $60 game. Yes, I am aware. I'm a fan of Angry Joe. If Angry Joe did a review on this, which I haven't seen he did one yet, he will probably be like 4 hours. So I'm a fan of his. But here's the thing, I'm gonna address that right now. The game is very short. My first playthrough ended at 4 hours and 46 minutes. But here's the thing, if you plan to buy this game just to run it once and nothing else, then I could get your complaint. And I would myself tell you, wait for a sale. Don't pay 60 for only 4 hours of awesomeness. I would get it. But here's the thing. I've seen a lot of criticism towards that. Oh, you're paying $60 for this 4 hour game. But the game has a lot of replay value to it. Number one, after you beat the game, you unlock a shop where you could buy infinite weapons, hit pouches, coins that help assault your attack, defense, and even regenerate health, which is all fantastic. You can buy lockpicks, bolt cutters to have it real early and never have to backtrack. You can do everything in one shot. You can have this manual for easier dodging. The game has dodging. If you've never played the original, this was in the original. But if you only played the remake of 2, then you got dodging now. It has a lot of replayability due to this. In fact, I just kept going back and back to the game with the new stuff I was able to buy. I bought an infinite handgun. I would go play with it. I bought the ride-in gun. I would go and play with it. I got the infinite rocket launcher. I would go back and play with it. It added incentive to go back into the game to try out all this new stuff. I went myself. I bought some of the coins. I said to myself, "Wow, Resident Evil 7, the coins are useless. I never even found them really effective. Here, I felt like they were effective. It adds to the game. If you want to do high difficulties, maybe you don't feel that good. Guess what? You put on those coins and you can take more hits. It helps you play the game. It helps you. If you want a real challenge, just don't use the coins. It adds to that replayability. And it's just, I don't see the problem with that. And Resident Evil games have never been known for the length, with a few exceptions like Resident Evil 6, which actually is kind of a long game. But the remake of 2 really wasn't that long either. Games like Resident Evil 0 and the Resident Evil 1 remake, both great games, go check them out, are very short. They're not long games. Those games average about 5 hours. This averages between 4 to 6 hours. Those games, if you were to speedrun them, you can get them done real easily, just like this one. Short games are nothing new to the Resident Evil franchise. Like I said, only a few exceptions, like 6, maybe 4, are games that last a little longer than the average RE game. This is nothing new to the franchise. I don't see why people are, I guess, noticing now. And even the remake of 2 wasn't the longest game ever. But another criticism the game is getting is the cut content. And here I agree with some of it. For one, there is no mercenaries mode. I get it, mercenaries mode was an awesome mode. It actually got introduced in the original Resident Evil 3. And I get it. Most people want to see mercenaries mode back. But you can play this mode in games like Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6. It's still around in other games. In this game, we get Resident Evil Resistance, which is not necessarily a mode of RE3. It's actually really its own separate game. So that's the thing. You're paying $60 not for the 4-hour game of Resident Evil 3. You're paying $60 for Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil Resistance. Two complete games. They both have their own applications at that. That's how you know it's not a mode of RE3. It's a separate game that was included in this package. And I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, Resident Evil Resistance sucks." Well, if you think so, I get it. If you don't think so, you think it's good. I think so. To me, the game is alright. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it's not the worst thing ever. I've seen worse from this franchise, like Umbrella Corps. This is a better executed online game than a game like Umbrella Corps. So you're not paying 60 for RE3. The way I see it, you're paying 60 for both of these games. You can see it as you're paying 30 for RE3, 30 for Resistance, or 40 for RE3 and 20 for Resistance. Two games for the price of one. Resistance has its own customization for their characters, their survivors, their mastermind. You can change stuff on the characters. This is all well and good. It's replayable because you're working towards getting more stuff for your survivors or your mastermind. Resident Evil Resistance is an asymmetrical multiplayer game in the style of Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight, where 4 players take on the 5th player, who's the mastermind. You have 4 survivors, and the 4 of you must work together to escape the mastermind. The mastermind uses cameras to put zombies down. You control everything through cameras. You throw grenades down and stuff to try and kill them, and eventually you can use your ultimate weapon, which depending on the mastermind, it changes. A character might have Mr. X, and you can play as Mr. X. And Ed Birkin has William Birkin. You can play as William Birkin. See, it adds to that. And playing as those boss characters, being able to play with them is a ton of fun. The survivor aspect of it, it's okay. It's not the greatest thing ever, but like I said, it's not the worst thing ever. I bought Resident Evil Umbrella Corps for $40 when it came out, and it was so bad I was okay playing it that one time, and I never ever touched it again because that game was a big piece of shit. That's the truth. This is not that bad as some people are making it out to be. It's really not. Now, if this is not your cup of tea and you're only here to play the game once, don't buy the game for 60. Honestly, don't buy the game for 60. Buy it for 40, 30. Maybe in a year from now it'll be $20. Then that's fine. If you're going to buy it to play it multiple times, it's definitely worth it. If you're gonna buy it to also play Resistance, it's definitely worth it. See, it might be a short game. Indeed, yes, it is. But it adds to the replayability of the game, and it's not the only thing. You have things to work for after you beat the game. You have another game in Resident Evil Resistance, which has its own application. It's its own game. It has its own platinum if you're on PS4. 2 games for the price of one. So yes, we don't have Mercenaries, but we have Resident Evil Resistance. Now, somewhere where I think the game does definitely fall short, it's in its costume options. For besides your regular outfit in the game for Jill and Carlos, Carlos doesn't get any, and Jill only gets one. Her Stars outfit, which she looks amazing on. It's a nice, awesome callback to Resident Evil 1. But besides that, in the actual game itself, you don't have anything else. You can only buy Jill stars. For the original costumes for both Carlos and Jill, they're locked behind pre-orders. Now, I pre-ordered my game, but I don't have it yet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my other video. GameStop is holding my Resident Evil 3 Collector's Edition hostage. So if you didn't pre-order, you don't have these two outfits. Now I'm pretty sure Capcom will probably sell this down the line for everybody else. But for now, this is the only way you can get them was through pre-orders. That's a short cry of the original. The original game had more outfits than this, definitely more. And it's a sad thing that I don't know why they didn't bother to bring more. Are they what? Are they trying to do this as DLC? Maybe. I hope not. This should be in the game. What I'm hoping is they add an update where they put to more costumes to buy in the shop of the game itself, which is it kind of sucks. There was even a Dino Crisis outfit in the original, but it's not here. It's not here. You don't have options for costumes, and that is a sad shame considering how many there were in the original. Now you only have the main one and Jill Star's outfit. And like I said, the pre-order bonus. But if you don't pre-order, you don't have it. But once I got Jill Star's outfit, that is what I stuck with. I'm a fan of the original Resident Evil, especially the remake itself. That's a much better game and experience. And I just stuck with that outfit. But I would have liked more options and more variety. Like I said, had I had my classic outfit, which I'm old by GameStop, yes, I would have definitely have put that on. But it's not here. So in the costume department, it is a very sad and short cry of the original game. Something else that was cut out of the game was the ability to choose path. The game will give you an option and you would decide on what to do, and that would eventually lead to different endings. There's only one ending here, but I'm okay with that. You know, we have, and I know Resident Evil games have always had a lot of time multiple endings, but I'm okay with that one canon ending to go with. I'm fine with that. Now, the ability to change path, like the example I'm showing here, fight with the monster or enter the police station, they're essentially gone, but are they really? Because if you choose to fight the Nemesis when he's after you, you're fighting the monster, or you could run away. The option is still there. The game is just not telling you select one or the other. It's what you're doing. If the Nemesis shows up and you chose to run away, that was your choice. You chose to fight the Nemesis. Guess what? You chose to fight the Nemesis. And if you down him, you get a reward, just like in the original. So yes, I had no problem with this. I just wish, I do agree, I just wish they would have had the Barry ending have been the canon ending here. That would have been nice. But hey, we got one ending. Okay, I get it. I get the frustration from a lot of people, but it's perfectly fine. Yes, I do wish Barry was in the ending. I agree with that. It was a nice callback to the original game, which Jill and Barry were both in. But now that you know that, let's move on to the next. Now, unlike the Resident Evil 2 remake, where it had brand new music, and if you had the deluxe edition or whatever it was, you could play the original music. And I always went with the original music for sure. It was much better and it still fit the tone. But here, I was surprised there was no new music and they stuck with the original music, and I was fine by that. I think a lot of people were fine by that, but I'm just sharing you so you guys know that was something to take note of from the remake of 2. They just went with the original music. They didn't add anything new. Something else that they did that I did not like, they tore down the gore. In the remake of 2, if you shot a limb, like the leg or the arm, they will fall off. That doesn't really happen here. Almost at all. It happens here and there, but it's not as frequent as you keep aiming the leg and his leg's going to fall off. There is none of that here. That was a setback, and I was definitely disappointed by that in the gore. But the game is still pretty gory, just not as much as the remake of 2. Something I really like was Carlos. Carlos was the character in the original that, to be honest, I was not a very big fan of. But here, he's a more developed character and he has more personality, and you just can't help but like the character. I think Carlos was way better done here than he originally was. So I actually went from not liking Carlos to actually liking Carlos. I think he's a really good character now. I really did like him. And besides that, I like his relationship with Jill in the game, how it evolves. Jill and Carlos both start, yes, working together, but she's a little bit held back by the fact that he works for Umbrella, and she obviously knows Umbrella are not the good guys around here due to previous events. But so she is a little bit more reserved with them. But as the game evolves and they save each other and all that, they begin to really trust each other and make that bond. So when he eventually has to, spoilers for an old game and the remake just doing the same, has to save her, it feels more realistic, and why he would want to really risk his life for her is amazing. Is amazing. Is way better done than it originally was. He's a much better character than he originally was, and how their relationship changed. Yes, in this short game, as some people would like to probably point out later on. Yes, how it truly evolves from not really liking each other but working with each other to really truly caring for each other. I like that. Very well done in that regard. Even Tyrell is a much better character who barely had any screen time in the original. You actually buy him as Carlos' comrade. He's actually working with them. You buy that. He's a much better character now. He's given more to do in the game. And that was something a nice, not a big deal about the game. You ain't gonna buy the game for Tyrell, but it was definitely a nice change to his character and to the game to give him more screen time and give him more something to do. It was a good move. And you will get to play with Carlos a lot more than the original. His scenes were expanded on, like the hospital, much bigger areas now expanded. So you will be playing with Carlos a lot more, which is nice. Some of the complaints again are the in the Resident Evil 2 remake, you had two separate campaigns with Leon and Claire, but here both characters are in one campaign, and I'm about to tell you why I'm okay with that. For one, it makes the whole story feel more connected than the remake of 2, because yes, you have two campaigns, but some of the stuff in the game don't wouldn't even make sense. Like, how can William Bergens break down, for example, this door down when you play as Leon, and when you play as Claire, guess what, he's doing the same thing, he's breaking down the same door. It makes it not really feel as connected as it should and as it wants to be. But yes, I was a fan of the two campaigns, really a fan. But like I said, I love the remake of 2. I'm not trying to crap another RE game at all. I love the Resident Evil franchise. I just want you to understand that this game does not deserve the hate that it's getting by some people. So the two characters in one campaign, I'm okay with it. It makes everything feel connected, and then you just jump back and forth between Jill and Carlos. And actually, Carlos is the one that goes into the RPD, not Jill this time, which some people have also complained about. But it makes sense for Umbrella to be the ones that made it to the station. And if, like me and many others, you love the remake of 2, it was a nice way to go in there. And yeah, it's very blocked off in a lot of stuff. And it's pretty short if you think about it. It's not that short when you first played it, but on your multiple playthroughs, you're just going to breeze by it. But it's a nice callback to the remake of 2. This, like I said, you do go into the RPD in the original, but this time it's Carlos and not Jill. And it's a nice callback to last year's remake of Resident Evil 2. I loved it as a big Resident Evil fan. I'm sure you did too. Now, something else that must be said. This is, and it kind of sucks in a way. There are almost no puzzles. There are a very small amount of puzzles, and I've seen a lot of people have felt frustrated due to that, and I can understand that for sure. For sure, I can understand that. I get it. At first, it caught me off guard how many little there were, but that's because the game, like the original version compared to part two, is a little bit more action heavy. It has more fighting zombies and all that, but it doesn't go crazy like Resident Evil 5 and 6. But it's definitely more action than the remake of 2. And I think that is why there are less puzzles. You know, especially when you play as Carlos, it's definitely more action heavy. But I'm okay with that. The way I would describe it is it's not as, survivor horror as part two, but it's not all action like five. We don't touch action in the bunkered ways of 5 and 6, but you're just shooting, enemy after enemy after enemy, with pretty much no puzzles in those games. But it doesn't reach that level of action, but it doesn't feel as survival horror as, let's say, the remake of 2, which felt more survival horror, more puzzles, more of this and that than actually fighting. You really had to consume your ammo because you were truly trying to survive in that survival horror game. And yes, this is survival horror in part 3, but it's actually standing in between that. It stands between 2, but not as 5 and 6. The best way to see it is it stands in between those games, and it's more like 4. Yes, 4 had puzzles, but it was an in between of those two things. Now, one of the biggest criticisms was the cut content. Like I said, I already addressed the mercenaries and why that was okay with resistance, but areas that were cut were like the clock tower, which went from being an actual place you actually had to explore and play to just being the backdrop of your fight with Nemesis in one of the later boss battles. I get that was a frustration. Also cut is the park, the cemetery, so no warm boss, and I get that. I honestly do get that. They did add new areas though, so they took off areas, but they added areas. That is why I get why people are frustrated, but they took some out and added some stuff in. That's why I was a little bit okay with it. I get it, I do get it, I really do, but they took some and then they gave you some. That's how I see it, which is why it didn't really bother me. Like the sewers, that was a brand new part added to the game that wasn't in there. That was probably just done for a callback to last year's Resident Evil 2 again. And the hospital scene being extended, including a section that wasn't even on the original. In the original, the hospital gets blown up, where here you actually have to defend Jill while the cure takes effect, as Carlos, shooting zombies as they come in wave after wave through the window, while Tyrell is able to close down the windows. And I love that scene. It really was like Carlos' last stand right there. It was great. It was a great moment in the game. So that's why I was like, had they just taken stuff out and added nothing in, I would have been like, okay, what the hell? They did add a new enemy type, which the Nemesis creates. That wasn't in the original. It was a good. So yeah, they took off some enemies. Some enemies didn't make it in this cut, but then we did get a new enemy in that regard. So yeah, it's like they took some stuff out, but they made sure to put other stuff in. I think one of the reasons people have truly been hitting this game a little hard is because people want to compare it to last year's Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2's remake was amazing, and it immediately became my favorite Resident Evil of all time, topping Resident Evil 4 for me, as the Resident Evil 4 was my number one for many years. It was an amazing experience. And the fact that this game is shorter, they wanted the Nemesis to be like Mr. X and other stuff like that. And while the remake of 2 was mostly faithful to the original, for the most part, even that game has stuff cut out. For the most part, it was almost faithful completely. Where this one, they took some liberties of changing stuff and taking some stuff out and putting some stuff in, removing this mode, but adding this other mode. That's why people, I think, have been hating on it. So if you've never played the original Resident Evil 3 but love the remake, you're gonna love this game. Absolutely, you're gonna love this game. This is just more of the awesomeness of Resident Evil and another great remake. Now, I think the most frustration is coming from fans of the original, feeling like they were robbed of what they wanted. They wanted another remake to be completely faithful to the original. That's what I thought I was getting. But it wasn't like that. It's not what I got, but what I got wasn't bad either. What I got was another amazing remake. Another amazing remake. Another amazing game by Capcom, continuing its trend of just hit after hit after hit after they were down for so many years. Ever since Resident Evil 7, they've been on this amazing run with amazing, incredible games. Yes, you can argue the Resident Evil 3 remake is not as good as the remake of 2, but it's not trying to be. It's not trying to be better. It's trying to be a part of that piece of the puzzle. Both games connect tremendously. They both take place around the same time, before and after, depending on the timeline of RE3, where you are in the moment of the game. So it's not trying to be better, it's trying to be a part of it. Both games, you should see it as they're one big story. They both are intertwined, and you see moments where Claire passes by somewhere where Leon will pass by later. That doesn't really happen much often. Is the remake of 3 better than the remake of 2? Well, that's really up to you and in your personal opinion. To me, Part 3 is just as good as the remake of 2. They are both excellent games. They're both excellent, amazing games that I had a blast with. I beat the remake of 2 so many times, and this was no different. I beat the remake of 3 a total of 9 times before I did this review. 9 times. That should tell you something. I went from I beat the game, let me review the game. No, 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 no. Let me beat it again and then I'll review the game. No, no, no. Let me beat the game a third time and then I'll review with it. A game that averages 4 to 6 hours, I'll play it for 30 hours. Because of how many times I replayed it over and over again. Because of, like I said earlier, the replayability of the game through the shop, it adds more to the game to play the game more. But I saved the best for last. People have complained about the two different scenarios of 2 not being here in 3 with Carlos and Joe, the fact that they're both one campaign. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Here's the thing: 2 had 2 different scenarios, and depending on which scenario, if you play with Leon A and Claire B, or vice versa, it was different. Items were in different places and location, the enemy layouts, all that. Yes, that was all good stuff. But that's actually technically in here in one mode. So instead of 2 different campaigns, 2 different scenarios, you get it in one. After you beat the game in hardcore mode, you unlock Nightmare difficulty. Now this is not just a difficulty spike, for yes, enemies are much stronger than hardcore, much tougher, more aggressive, but the items are moved around. I went to an area where there should have been ammo, I found a grenade. I went to an area where I should have found the fancy box to get the jewel, because you need 3 jewels to find magnum ammo. I was very confused as soon as I started why the game would give me the magnum right in the opening moments of the game instead of near the ending of the game where the other 3 difficulties took place. Items are changed around. Not just items, enemy layouts are changed around. Where this might have been 1 zombie here, there are 8 zombies here. When you shoot Brad down in the front of the RPD, guess what? In the original 3 difficulties, that was it for Brad. Out of nowhere, he shows up again inside the RPD moving around, and you have to confront him again, much tougher than he was originally in the other 3 difficulties, taking more damage before going down. An example of how the different scenarios of how it changed items and enemies is in here in Nightmare difficulty. Then you beat Nightmare difficulty, and you unlock the hardest difficulty in the game, Inferno mode. Inferno mode will take the layout of Nightmare mode, so it'll be just like Nightmare mode, not the original 3, but enemies are even more tougher, more aggressive. I was dying at first, because it caught me off guard how much the zombies would actually run and dive towards me at all times, more aggressive. But there are no autosaves, and like me, I went for an S rank, you can only save 5 times. I wanted the S rank because I wanted to platinum the game, which I did earlier today. And you can only save 5 times. I'm like, I gotta be careful where I save. And at one point, I saved before the Demos spider animals monsters. And I saved there. I'm like, let me save here because sometimes they sure can grab me. And, then you get infected. I'm like, let me not deal with that. Let me save here to be sure. And then I moved on past that. I went to the RPD station past that and I died and I had to go all the way back to that scene because I had died because there are no autosaves. You just have to save. But if you want an S rank, you can only save 5 times. I always try to save before a boss fight. That is my way of doing it. But that's how I did it. See, there is more to it. That mode, I'm pretty sure most people wouldn't even know about it because they won't even be hardcore to try it out. They just do easy or normal and leave. But it is a nice reward for playing the game so many times. You get that different experience in those 2 difficulties. An amazing experience. I had a blast. I felt like I was playing a different scenario, just like Resident Evil 2. It took me off guard, and it made everything different. Some things I couldn't find. I'm like, where is this 3rd jewel? I found the first 2. I have no idea where the 3rd one is now. I can't find it at all. It added that new element of a brand new mode and a brand new run. So overall, Resident Evil 3, to me, it's an amazing experience that you have to play. I get some of the criticism, but for every criticism in the game, there is a fair argument. Cut content, they added new content. They changed this, but they put it this. And that's how the game works. It's not a faithful recreation of the original, like the remake of 2. And I get it, that's what you were expecting. That's what I was expecting. But what we got is still an amazing remake, an amazing game, highly replayable. We got Resistance. The music is amazing. The graphics are amazing. The gameplay is amazing. Everything about it is just fantastic. I have no complaints. Yes, I'm a fan of the original, but what's here isn't a making package, still as it is. Is the game short? Yes, but it's highly replayable. Is the mercenaries gone? Yes, but now you have resistance. Did they cut out these areas? Yes, but they added new areas, new sections. They took out this enemy, okay, but they added a brand new enemy. See, for everything that the game gets criticized for, it did something to add to it. They took out something, but then they made sure to add something else. The game that we got is an amazing, fan fucking tastic game that I highly recommend. It is another amazing game done by Capcom. Not just another amazing remake, but just another amazing game, another experience worth playing. And yes, it is short, but like I said, to me, it is worth the $60 with everything that it does. That's my opinion. My final verdict of the game is a 9 out of 10. Only because, yes, it could have been a little longer. I agree. I agree. But due to the replayability of the game, I can't take nothing more than just 1 point. I agree, a little longer would have been nice, but it was okay. I take a point away for it. The game was amazing. I recommend you buy it. 9 out of 10. Another amazing game. Thank you, Capcom. Now let's see what's not just the next Resident Evil, but what is the next Resident Evil remake. I will make a video talking about that in the future. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I know this video was longer than I normally do my videos, but if you like, share, and subscribe, comment. Do you agree with my 9 out of 10? Do you think that's too high? Do you think it should have been a 10 out of 10? Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember the giveaway at 100. Share with your friends for a chance to win. Brian Redgrave here and out. Peace.